Are you familiar with the appointment of Justice Matthew Piché-Messier to the Quebec Superior Court? Yes or no?
When was the appointment made? Not off the top of my head.
Justice Piché-Messier was a repeat donor to the Liberal Party of Canada. His last donation of $12.50 was in spring 2024, and he was appointed to the bench in the fall of 2024. Do you believe that is appropriate? Yes or no?
I believe that it should not influence one way or the other someone's appointment to the bench. There have been a number of appointments who've been involved with different political parties since I've held this position. I don't think the fact that you've made a donation to one particular political party should serve as either an obligation nor should it be something that bars you from being appointed.
In fact, 4 judges, or 20% of all judges appointed in 2024 to the Quebec Superior Court, donated either to the Liberal Party of Canada or to an electoral district association of the Liberal Party. That does not concern you?
If the allegation were proven that we were making appointments on the basis of someone making a donation, that would be concerning. There are judges who've been engaged with, as I've mentioned, various different parties who've made donations to different parties at different levels. That is not something that I seek information about before making appointments.
Attorney General, judges are appointed to the bench must be above reproach. That means that they must be devoid of any apprehension of bias. A donation to a political party is reflective of one's political ideology and therefore gives rise to an apprehension of bias. Lady Justice wears a blindfold for a reason. She doesn't favor red or blue. Will you commit not to name any past Liberal donors to the bench during your remaining time as Attorney General?
Look, it's essential that people are able to operate independently, but I think it's important that we don't exclude people from opportunities to serve Canada because they've engaged in our political process. With respect to Chief Justice Joyal, I believe he was appointed initially by a progressive conservative government at the provincial level, and to cast aspersions upon appointees on the basis of their participation in our democracy, I think may well violate someone's opportunity to take part in that democracy, including their freedom of speech. But more broadly, I would commit to not appointing people because they have made those donations, but I'm certainly not going to commit today to excluding people on the basis they've made a donation to the party to which I belong, or for that matter, to parties of a different affiliation.
The Justice Minister has significant influence over every judicial advisory committee. You appoint the 3 public members and you also select one out of the 3 choices given to you. At the same time, the judicial application form includes a question requiring applicants to express their views on the role of judges in a constitutional democracy. And I actually believe that the previous version was the role of judges in society. This is a leading question, Attorney General, that inevitably favors candidates with progressive leanings. So I'd like to ask you, is it appropriate for the Attorney General to make judicial appointments based on political leanings?
Well, let's not divorce this from the current facts. We are nominating a superior candidate who cannot be stuck neatly into a corner based on an affiliation with one party or another. What's important to me is understanding the character of the person. Do they have integrity? Do they have an understanding of the law, experience in the law? And do they understand the role that the courts ought to play within a country like Canada? When I see criticisms of reference to constitutional democracies, I don't know how that suddenly makes someone a partisan hack. My view is that someone, whatever their opinion is, having thoughtfully engaged on the philosophy behind how courts can engage in our democracy is actually a very healthy part of the exercise that informs appointments that we can make.
Minister, my comment was not with respect to the appointment before this committee, but to the question asked generally. And the question is, what is the role of judges in society? And I submit to you respectfully that it is not uncommon for governments to seek candidates that reflect their political ideology. That would be a question that could be derived and in fact allude to one's political ideology. And I'm wondering if you think that's appropriate.
Sorry, I don't share your concern, frankly, on the basis of a judge being able to discuss their role either in a constitutional democracy or in society more broadly is somehow leading to the appointment of judges who favor one political party over another. With respect, you said your question is not really pertinent to the conversation about the appointment of Chief Justice Joyal to the Supreme Court. That is why we are here. I question the relevance of your question if you're not able to stick to the very purpose this committee has gathered. In any event, I don't share your concern. I believe that ministers of justice, governments of different partisan affiliation are able to consider a person's perspective before their appointment as to the role of courts and judges in society or a constitutional democracy.
Thank you very much. That concludes your time, Mr. Weber. Moving on to Mr. Maloney for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to add my thanks to the panel of witnesses today. Minister, Ms. McTeer, Mr. Giroux, thank you for all the work you've done in getting us here today, because this is an incredibly important process. It's an apolitical process, and we all owe you a debt of gratitude for doing what you do, so thank you. And I also want to add my thanks to outgoing Justice Martin, who served the court and the country with grace and an excellent display of legal knowledge, so thank you to her. Look, we've come a long way in terms of this process. Just so we're clear for the public, this is not a confirmation hearing like you might see in the United States. This is an opportunity for the Canadian public to become aware of what the process looks like behind the scenes in terms of appointing people to these critically important positions. We started back in, I think, 2005. The government of the day started the hearing process, which we're going to see again this afternoon. In 2016, we started with the process that you headed up, this time Ms. McTeer. And all of this is an effort so that the people in Canada can see how the process works, come to have further respect for our court system, which is above reproach, in my opinion. I practiced in Ontario for 20 years before going into politics, and just to briefly address Mr. Baber's point, not once did I walk into a courtroom and wonder who appointed the judge or what he or she did politically before. I think to suggest that that is a factor in decision-making or by judges is outrageous, frankly. And I just want to get that on the record. And that's why these hearings are so important, and what we're going to do this afternoon is so important. So maybe I'll just open the floor to all three of you to address that issue, because we've come a long way on this transparency process. And part of there's a big upside to it from the public, but as we've just witnessed, there can be a downside too, because it opens judges to commentary and criticism, which is political, unfair, and outrageous, in my opinion. And judges are not in a position like we are as politicians to stand in front of a microphone or put out a statement defending ourselves. We have the greatest justice system in the world, in my opinion, so I would just like you to comment on the process, on its pros and perhaps cons in light of what we just heard.
If I may, Chair, offer an initial response. I do find the line of questioning that we just heard to be deeply concerning. I don't want to make assumptions about motivation, but it seems clear there's at least some attempt to try to have Canadians question the independence of the judiciary based on their political affiliation, just so Canadians at home have some comfort. For more than a decade, the process for all judicial appointments, not only at the Supreme Court, but every Superior Court appointment, including every one that I've made over the course of the past year, there has been an independent judicial advisory committee that has been struck, who is forbidden from considering the political activities of the applicants. They independently come up with a recommendation, either recommend against an appointment, that a person should be appointed, or give the highly recommended advice. And in my experience, and over the past 10 years, there have been 0 cases of a judge appointed who was not recommended or highly recommended by a group who was forbidden from considering the political activity. The independence of the process is essential to public confidence. Confidence is essential to faith in our democracy. It doesn't get more serious than this, and I really must draw attention and critique forcefully any attempt by any parliamentarian to call into question the integrity of the justice system. That is not a healthy thing for this committee to be digging into, and frankly is so far removed from the process and the facts on the ground that I think you're right to provide the platform for us to correct that perspective.